Thank you so much for joining us, Neil. So, to begin, if it's okay, I'd like to ask you some quick fire questions just so our listeners can get to know you a bit better. What was the last book that you read?
Haha. Well, I like to read books by Michael Connolly, who's an American detective writer. He was the crime reporter at the LA Times Los Angeles, and he in lockdown we watched Bosch, Bosh, this detective called Hieronymus Bosch, known as Harry. And so the last book I read was by him. It's called The Narrows, but he's got about 20, 30 books, different characters.
Ah,
I'm a bit of a sucker for crime fiction. Why
yeah.
why do we love crime? We want to know who did it. Is it we want to look at the depths of human depravity but also feel safe? I don't know, but that's an easy way for me to read books now. I find I can't sit down too long to read a book
Mhm.
which doesn't have some sort of page turny quality like that.
What was the last thing that you learnt?
Crikey, I'm learning things all the time. Last night we were discussing at the Comedy Store Players social media, the algorithms, what gets picked up on Instagram, what doesn't. I'm not sure I learned anything, just other than it's all quite complicated, and you've got to
Yeah.
play the right game if you want to get noticed, and why some things are and aren't. So, for example, Josie Lawrence, who's one of the Comedy Store Players, people might know her from Whose Line Is It Anyway. When she puts up, we've got a show coming up, it doesn't get as many likes as when she puts up a picture of her cat.
And it feels like with social media, you'll learn something new and then it'll all change anyway. So it feels like everything you have to constantly learn with something like social media.
That's true. Yes, it is changing because my children use Instagram to talk to people. Email's very old-fashioned,
Mm.
incredibly old-fashioned. So I'm learning this.
What is your greatest strength?
Just what I did then. I can laugh. I can laugh at myself. I can laugh when I'm in difficulty, and I can help others laugh. I think humor is absolutely essential to the human condition, to any team, to any family, to any organization.
And what motivates you?
Golly, that's I would say money. No, I wouldn't. The thing is, what dismotivates me, I suppose, the research says, once we've got a certain amount of money, that's not the thing. We want something else about. And I do feel I love being part of something. I'm a freelance, but when people say to me, I remember your workshop and it helped me do da 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 da. Oh, yes, it was 10 years ago and I've still got that handout you gave me. That's really exciting to me. So I don't know instantaneously when I finish today's workshop, will they take this forward? But 5 years later, people do they say that? And coaching as well, individuals, people say this has really helped me. And so I think it sounds too kind of glamorous, but pompous, making a difference, but also being appreciated for what I do particularly.
Mm.
And this is the thing that I've learned really, is that we all have strengths and weaknesses. And I've found the thing I really enjoy, which is not what everyone does. And there's certain things I can't do that others do. So being appreciated for who I am. How about that?
Mm. That's great. And lastly, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
To attempt, of course, I would love to be a professional table tennis player. I did play table tennis at school, and I became a qualified referee because I wasn't going to become an actual player. So I did go to international events and world table tennis championships. Um, I suppose there are people I am intrigued by because I work with management consultants, I work in public sector leaders. These people making real differences to real lives, but also quite scary because they are making differences to real lives and running huge budgets, and mistakes are
Yeah.
very public and transparent. So people say, "Oh, you're so brave, not with a proper job," and I think you're brave. You've got a real job with real responsibility. So yeah, how about that? Professional table tennis player. I'm not sure how well paid it is, but I think I quite enjoy a tracksuit.
And do you still dabble in table tennis, or would it be?
Well, a few years ago, my wife said, let's get one for the garden. So in lockdown, it was great because my children were doing online school. So they'd have their mid-morning break and I'd have my coffee break. We'd play table tennis. And so my son's quite good at it now. So yes, I still dabble, but I haven't. And also, this is another thing. I get into Instagram wormholes where I watch one table tennis clip, and of course they come at
Hmm.
you like Nobody's business. And the rallies can go on forever. And you think he'll never get that back. What's she doing? Oh, she's got it back. You know, those kind of joyous moments. That's my sort of my addiction, I suppose.
That's great. Thank you for answering those. It's really interesting to know a bit more about you personally. In your bio, we mentioned that you are a unique communication expert. So, what does unique communication mean in the context of leadership, and why is it important for leaders to develop their own communication styles?
Well, there you go. You've caught me out at my own game because I thought I was a unique expert in communication. But unique communication, I'm glad you picked up on that because I have to work a bit harder here. Because I do say to every leader I work with, find the way you should do it. And you don't have to be all loud at the front. You can be quiet from the back, sort of thing. There are moments when you should do one or other of those. Find who you are. There is a theory. There's a book called Why Should Anyone Want to Be Led by You? And I say to every single leader, you will do it in your way. And one of my heroes is Herminia Ibarra, a professor of leadership and at London Business School. And she talks about being authentic to your future self. So whatever you were, you're developing into the next version. You don't lose your values, but you've got to step into a different pair of shoes. So find what that is. And I don't want people to think, I've got to be like my boss. I've got to be like her. Oh, no, if I'm not like him, I've failed. No, be who you are, because you are a leader in real life. You may be of your friends when you're going on holiday. You find the restaurant. That's leadership. Find the way that's good for you, but also, on the other hand, find a way that's good for each of your team. Because there's that person who needs constant reassurance, checking in, and there's that person who just wants to go off and do it on their own and every now and again report back to you. And so that's the thing that I would say is find the one that works for you, but in the micro moments, find the one that works for her, for him. Right now, they just need you to listen. Right now, actually, they just need, tell them what to do, be quite directive because that's what the moment requires. And it's okay not to know. The biggest, because I teach improv, which is all about the discovery that's possible through uncertainty. And the main thing people feel, as leader, I've got to know the answers to everything. And that's possibly not the best thing for their teams, certainly not for them, because they'll feel stressed. So find the way that works for you and bring that to the party. And then on the other hand, there are times you've got to step into a slightly different role, extend your, let's say your role, if you like, or extend the way you play who you are. There may be times you've got to step out. There may be times you've got to speak slower, more definitively. There are times you've just got to make a decision. It's obvious A and B are similar, but you've got to go A, okay, and stick with it, but also check in with people. How was that for you? Was A the right answer? Maybe let's look, whatever. So, of course, I'm going to say here is listen. That's the main thing I would say is listen to the moment, listen to the people, listen to your intuition sometimes, and acknowledge that you're not perfect.
And you mentioned then at the beginning how sometimes it's the right time to be loud, sometimes to be quiet, obviously flexing to who it is that you are leading. And effective communication is really crucial, but it can come in such a variety of styles. One that I'm really interested in is storytelling. So with that in mind, what role does storytelling play in communication, and how can leaders use that to effectively inspire and engage their teams?
I love storytelling. I didn't realize quite how important it was, because 25 years ago, I thought I'm going to teach people improv skills that we use on the theatre stage, and we ask the audience for suggestions and then make up scenes and stories and songs. And I thought it was about listening and being adaptable and flexible. Beginning to realize actually after a while that when we're doing improv scenes, we're creating story. The audience wants to know, will she get the treasure? Will he defeat the dragon? Whatever. Where are they heading? What's the treasure? What's the thing they have to overcome? What's the mountain they need to climb? And also the audience enjoys watching the story of us, the Comedy Store players, 6 of us, how we develop over the evening, the little moments between us, even that bloke in the front row, that person in the third row, what the suggestions she gave at the beginning, what's she developing now, sort of thing. So the story of the night, and I realizing that narrative is ancient. I believe that story existed even before Excel's spreadsheet. So that's It's how we make meaning, how we understand who we are and where we are. And I've done a lot of work in the public sector, and the idea of public narrative, which is understanding how we got here, where we are now, and where we're going to go next. Brilliant summation of the way we see the world, and we can be inspired and engaged and also forgive ourselves. Is the story, there was a moment of obstacle, there was a setback, there was a defeat, a failure, and through that came victory, or perhaps we are ready now to take the next step, and we only learned because of the failure. So story is this incredible thing, actually, that's very much in our DNA. We want to work out why we're here and where we could go next, and spreadsheets and slides don't tell us that. They give us an inkling, but metaphors and stories give us the sense of who we are. And also they're a mixture of emotional and rational, so values and logical next steps, and emotion, and how people are all have different motivations, and none of us is perfect, and we overcome those things. So those are all the things in stories. So there's things, there's jeopardy, there's dilemma, there's choices, there's learning, there's journey, there's stripping back, getting rid of the old skin, becoming who you are going to become. And I always say to people, actually, you may not believe me, but story is there all the time. People create story even if it's wrong. They'll look at some data or some facts or some gossip and, oh, of course, now I know. They're creating this sense of agency. What I mean by that is, of course, he did that. Of course, she would do that because, which may not be true. But they impose a story upon it because of the limited data they have. So leaders should be creating the story that helps us understand how we got here, what happened in the past, and how we could be moving forward in the future. And stories can sometimes be a number. Yeah, we're going to increase 3% or open a new office or whatever. But actually, it's kind of, how do I put myself in it? FOMO is a big thing, fear of missing out. And create a story that thinks, oh, yeah, I want to be in that story. That could be me. And leaders can say, look, this was what I was like. I did this. This was a failure. But actually, I learned from it. That's a great story to tell. And in my book, there's some psychological research about the stories that parents tell their children. You can tell this story. This happened to me. It was bad. People are bad. The world is bad. I can tell the same story. It was bad. I learned something. I came through it. I was tested in the fire. And that's the same facts. And so story is this sense of meaning, value, purpose, and often redemption, but also occasionally the story of bad, the boy who cried wolf. The story of warning. They said, oh, there's a wolf, but there wasn't. There's the next day, oh, there's a wolf, but there wasn't. The third day, there's a wolf. And there was. And this time nobody believed them, and the wolf ate them. So stories have been in our societies since we could draw, even before language. So they are in our DNA. And if you can tell the story of how you got here, if you can tell the story of how we can move forward, you're going to engage, inspire. And that's culture, really. The stories we tell about people, that's that's the Monday morning meeting. It's always a bit disappointing. That's a story. Rewrite that story. Let's not have the Monday morning meeting. Oh, let's make it better. Let's have it shorter. Let's have somebody else facilitate it. Story is this sense of how we make meaning.
Navigating difficult conversations and delivering tough feedback are some of the most challenging tasks that leaders can face, and the way these interactions are handled can significantly impact morale and trust and just overall effectiveness. So, how can leaders use unique communication to navigate difficult conversations and deliver tough feedback with empathy and clarity?
First thing is, don't wait till you've got tough feedback to give. Keep the conversation going whenever you have chance to. So I did a project with Corn Ferry, a big consultancy, and we talked about feedback, and they talked about to the people like me who are in different worlds. So theatre, hospitality, military, and different types of theatre as well. So dance, I'm in improv and acting theatre. So we give feedback all the time. You'd be surprised if a director didn't talk to you, or the chef didn't talk to you, the sergeant didn't talk to you all the time. It's a daily momentary thing. You don't just wait till the end of 6 months and have some written feedback. So keep the conversation going. So that's my observation. And even in remote times, keep the conversation going. So when you do need to give tough feedback, or whatever it may be honest and clear. And having done some research and taken advice on this, is if you've got bad news to give it quickly, i.e. don't wait, give it clearly, and then don't step back and say, well, it's, that's just them, I don't agree. You take responsibility for it and empathize with the person. I know this is tough. This is where we are. Acknowledge them, listen to them, but it's not a question of, I've got to give tough feedback, I've got to change my style. No, start talking to people as soon as you can. Listen, share, notice what they've done well. So from day one, try and begin to have feedback. Even the word makes me shudder. I found a neuroscience article which said, when somebody says, let me give you some feedback, it creates the same sort of fear, stress, worry as walking at night and hearing footsteps behind you. Because feedback sounds like, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, and you will feel under attack. Whereas if we can say, I'm going to constantly talk to you, notice when things went well, give some advice when they didn't. If we can, and there's various things, SIB and FBI, what was the situation, what was the impact, what's the behavior that could move things on? So why was it not good? Because it affected her this way. He was unable to do X. Okay, good, there's a clear why, rather than you're just a bit annoying. Isn't helpful. Oh, cheer up, that's not very helpful. What is the behavior? Separate it from the person, talk about the impact, and then what action we can take to change that. As well as the sense that we can improve. I know you can do it. If it's feedback like you're going to have to let someone go, that's obviously tough. But again, be honest, do it as soon as you can. Don't try and go on too much. This is the situation. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be tough. What do you think? Okay, good. How can we help you? What can we do as forward? I can't give you your job back, or whatever it may be. Now, this is, of course, one of the reasons why I'm a freelancer. I don't have to tell anybody that sort of thing. But that's my main advice. Clarity, transparency, and make it a part of your regular discourse. One-on-one. Tough feedback is much better delivered one-on-one rather than in a group setting. Take things offline where you can. Sometimes you might have to do it via remote means, but again, if you set up the sense that we are talking and I'm being transparent with you, then it will be easier when you have tough calls to make.
And you talked earlier about tailoring your communication to who it is that you are communicating with. What are the key differences between effective communication in a small team versus a large organization, and how can leaders adapt to those differences?
It's really hard in a large organization. What I would say is that large organizations are made up of smaller teams, and try and use that delegation as where possible. But if you're the senior leader, whatever you say is pretty important. So try to measure your words, try to be seen as much as possible, try to have conversations with people. We all know a small team, it's much easier to see people's faces, literally and emotionally, if you like, metaphorically. I know I can talk to her, great, the door's open, whatever it is. Large organization, I would say one of the things I noticed once I was working with a large organization doing infrastructure, and I talked to the boss and I said, you could just wander around a bit more. He said, why? Why do they want to see me? Because you're the boss. It doesn't have to be anything important. Just, hello, how are you? Just be seen. They may come and talk to you. They may have a gripe about the coffee machine, but just that sense that you're visible. So I would say, if a senior leader can't know everybody, perhaps, but can they measure their communications to fit everybody? It's not just a question of sending out emails, but if there are emails, keep them clear, to the point, and don't think that just because you sent an email, everyone knows. Because, as I say, those shadow stories oh, they've said that, but what they mean is this. They are not telling us this. There's always a they, isn't there? So it's harder. The bigger the organization, the harder it is. But try and be seen by as many people as possible. So the next echelon down, talk to them, try and be clear about what you do know, what you can control, what you can't control. Be honest about the stuff that's outside your control, if you like. So the neuroscience article I mentioned earlier was people get uneasy about, and this is the acronym SCARF, loss of status, loss of certainty, loss of autonomy, loss of relatedness, and unfairness, F for fair. So status, you've been downgraded. Certainty, we don't know when it's going to end. Autonomy, you're no longer in charge of the project. You've got to report to a new person. Relatedness, you've got to talk to different people. No, you're not in the same team. Fairness, people are being rewarded not necessarily according to what they've given. And this is the neuroscience. They switch it around, say, enhance somebody's status, give them more autonomy, give them some certainty. The car park will be finished in 3 months or whatever. This upheaval will be done soon. You will stay where you are, whatever. You can still be playing with Molly, still be in that gang. Fairness, the chief executive hasn't taken their bonus. They're having to make sacrifices just as much as that kind of thing. So it's a great model, the SCARF model of interpersonal behavior.
Finally, we've recently added a new feature to the podcast where we kind of flip the roles and we ask you to pose a question for our next guest. Before that, the question from our previous guest to you is, if you had to pick one moment that changed the course of what you wanted to do as a leader, what would it be?
Well, that's interesting because I don't think I'm a leader because I'm in a gang, the Comedy Store Players. But I would say that for me is a moment at Ashridge Business School when I realized that my improv skills had real, applicable, transformational effects for leaders. When I said improv is about listening, improv is about working with what the other person gives you, adapting to uncertainty. I thought, I'm really offering a tangible, applicable skill that's going to make a huge difference. And that was the moment for me at a business school where they were already teaching situational leadership, emergent leadership, or a lot of models, but I brought a very simple way of making that real, which we use on the stage in the theatre.
Thank you. And now can you please tell us what your question for the next guest is?
How can you effectively create a collaborative culture in your team?
I'm very intrigued to hear the answer to that one.
There you go, because I was asked this for my book, because I write about how to be a better collaborator, but how does a leader make their team be better collaborators when, of course, there are lots of diverse voices and experiences and attitudes?
Yeah, that will be really interesting. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Molly.
Mae ein podlediad Sgwrsiau ar Arweinyddiaeth ar gael trwy ein gwefan. Mae'r hawlfraint y podlediad yma yn cael ei gadw gan Llywodraeth Cymru. Our Conversations on Leadership podcast is available through our website. Copyright of this podcast is held by the Welsh Government.